We're scouring the country to find the village of the year, and today it's our latest heat. From our central zone, we're showcasing 4 villages. Then the judges will decide which to put through to the semi-final. Now to Cheshire, and a quirky little place, which unusually for a village in the Midlands is relatively remote. Perhaps that's why each year they celebrate transport in all its forms. Tucked away along the Shropshire Union Canal is the village of Audlem. At first glance, it looks like many other pretty Cheshire villages, with its bustling high street, 13th century church and tranquil canal. But according to the locals, it's not just a pretty face.
There's a lot of people who will recount actually having holidayed here and then returning to live here because they've loved the place so much. It's really got that draw.
It's almost like going back in time because all the shop fronts are quite old in style, and it really is just a wonderful English village.
The phenomena that is Audlem is partially created because the village is so far away from other communities. So in every direction, we're 8 miles separated from the next town.
Maybe it's this feeling of isolation that's given the locals a particular penchant for things that go vroom. Illustrated by the annual Transport Festival, as Judge Patrick discovered when he went to meet one of the event's biggest fans, Bernard.
What a beautiful-looking collection of vehicles you have here. Tell me about this one.
I've had that one about 11 years, I think. It's an Austin 7, and I bought this one because I had one in 1953. That's the one eventually I took to Paris.
So you drove one of these all the way to Paris?
Yep.
So can we take it for a spin?
Yep.
It's not an awful lot of room, is there?
There's plenty of room for me.
Toot toot! Off we go. It's cosy, isn't it, Bernard? Does the horn work? Toot toot! Well, there goes his hat!
Got to stay off my runway.
Check these brakes work.
I'll tell you how the brakes work. I seem to have lost my hat.
It's the terrifying speed. Bernard, thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you very much for your interest.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And of course, one event Bernard wouldn't miss is the Transport Festival. It's a popular event that features all sorts of wonderful vehicles.
We started in 1996 with 30 cars, and now we've got 300. It's grown part of the village, brings the village together as a community.
Bernard has a very special role.
I've been chosen to lead the procession. I've done it quite a few years now. You always get a good cheer and you go through the middle of all the crowds, you see.
I think that this has probably been the best festival that we've had so far. Great success, I think, for everybody.
There's every reason why this should be the Village of the Year, because without a doubt, it's the finest village on the planet.
And of course, being beside the canal, boats get in on the act too.
Today there's 2 events in Audlem, the Festival of Transport and the boat gathering here. Both really relate to Audlem's past.
Engineered by Thomas Telford in the early 19th century, the canal once brought industry to the village. Now it's mainly used for pleasure and housing.
There is a community that live on the canal, that use the village. It's their village, and that is something that's quite unique about Audlem.
One such boat dweller is artist Jane.
What a wonderful, wonderful place you have here.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
So, tell me about the canal art.
Well, in the working days of canal boats, there was a lot of this type of art. Really started in the 1830s when the railways came in and there was a lot of competition for transport. Wages were lowered and quite a few of the boatmen would move their families onto the boats. And, of course, they had to give up houses that maybe had gardens, you know, so the boats were painted with roses, such as this.
So I guess they were just sprucing up their homes.
They obviously wanted them to be homely.
Yeah. So how did you first start painting canal boats?
We've lived on a boat since 1977.
Wow, OK.
When we bought our first boat, we had a very good friend who came and painted some beautiful roses. So I was inspired to do this just for fun, and I ran workshops for people to learn. They're
Speaking of which...
Yes.
Yes. I'm itching to have a go.
Right, first thing to do, mark out 3 circles.
Yeah.
Mine always look like potatoes.
They look more like aubergines.
Now we need to mark out where the leaves go.
OK.
So I've mixed some green.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I'll just put some shading on.
So today, how important is the canal to the life in the village?
I think it's tremendously important. There's a lot of trade that comes from the canal.
And I guess it brings a colour to the...
Definitely, and I think it makes people in the village so friendly. They're used to having strangers in their midst.
But the final thing we need to do is put the petal and the little details in the centre.
All the details, yes. Try it with the white. We'll load some white on the pink
one.
yes.
Right.
Outside the circle. Yeah, great. And then come down this way. Brilliant, well done.
It does work.
Yeah. And I think you've done very well there.
Well, I think you're being very kind.
Could be a new career there, Patrick. The centre of Audlem is a designated conservation area, with buildings dating back to the 17th century. But Patrick is about to enter a time warp to a completely different era. It's the creation of one of Audlem's grooviest locals, lifelong villager Rockabilly Billy.
Hello, Billy.
Hello, Patrick.
What an extraordinary front room you have.
Yeah, well, welcome to 1956.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're clearly quite enamoured with the rockabilly era and the 50s. How did that come about?
I watched a programme many years ago when I was a kid, and they had Elvis Presley's Hound Dog playing in the background, and that's how I got into rock and roll and then ultimately rockabilly.
So what was it? Was it the clothes, the music, the hairstyles?
Yes, that.
Not a man to do things by halves, Billy's extended his mid-century theme throughout the whole house, even to the kitchen.
Where did all of these things come from?
A lot of the stuff actually was donated to me by the people of Audlem.
So these are pre-owned by villagers?
Yes, that's right. Most of the stuff is, yeah.
And Billy sometimes opens his doors to villagers for a trip down memory lane. As well as his fabulous collection of 50s Audlem hand-me-downs, he has a unique way of getting around the village.
Now, I also understand you have a rocket.
Of course I do. How else am I going to get me shopping?
Quite. This we have to see.
And here she is.
Absolutely.
She's a thing of great beauty. Where did it come from?
Well, it was a shoe shop display, and what I did with it, I've made it so that you can get in it, and I've stuck it on a mobility scooter and whiz around the village in it. Zoom off to the shops, yeah.
So how long have you lived in Audlem?
Well, somebody asked me that the other day. They said, have you lived here all your life? I said, not yet, no. But up to now, 60 years.
60 years?
Yes, you can't believe that.
No, I actually can't. What keeps you here for 60 years?
Because I love Audlem, and I love the Audlem people.
Well, I don't think you're alone in this village in your love of creativity and the slightly eccentric.
No, there's quite a lot of us in Audlem. We breed them like that in Audlem, you know, Patrick.
When presented with a rocket in a village garden, what else is there to do but drive it?
I haven't driven a rocket before. Oh, it's a tight old squeeze.
Think this is bad? Wait till your re-entry. Hey! Go on, Patrick!
Rocket Man!
Off like a rocket.
Does she go off-road?
She goes wherever you want her to. It's a rocket, Patrick.
Really picking up speed.
Maybe it feels faster than it looks.
We're approaching re-entry, Houston.
Wow.
Oh, runs like a dream.
Yes. When you woke up this morning, you didn't think you'd be doing this, did you?
I've got to say, Billy, this has been one of the more unusual experiences of my entire life.
Likewise.
So I thank you for it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Audlem, Cheshire's quirky village where colourful canal boats idle, vintage cars gather, and miniature rockets zoom. But will these credentials race Audlem past the checkered flag?
Or will today's heat go to a county down village where Juliet senses an undercurrent?
Legend has it that the Vikings, one of their big ships, was sucked down. So we'll not take you to... We won't take you there today. We won't take you there today.
No, thank you.
Or to one in Gloucestershire, where archaeologist and judge Alex tries a bit of self-promotion.
What you need is a big archaeological excavation in your garden. I know, just the man.
I went to Histon and Impington. They've got this wonderful communal orchard where they have planted the local variety. And then, of course, we've got the graffiti.
I don't know quite what I think about the graffiti. I think it seemed incongruous.
Like you, I couldn't make up my mind.
You must have liked the orchard.
Oh, yes, of course.
And I thought there was a great food story there. You know, I'm really impressed with this place.
Patrick, you went to Audlem.
I did. The lovely Bernard took me for a whiz round the field in his Austin 7.
Well, I've been worried. Did Bernard ever find his hat?
It shot off at 12 miles an hour out the side window.
I thought it was a charming place, actually. The narrowboat painting I thought was wonderful. And Rockabilly Billy, quite an enigma.
What can you say?
Long live Rockabilly Billy. Juliet, you went to Strangford.
Yes, which is absolutely beautiful. Several people in the village said that what they like to do is just go down to the water and think. And I thought, how lovely.
This is a really interesting place. And I kind of thought, yes, I've got to go there. The draw of the place for the creative types, the inspiration from the location, kind of just gelled this whole village together.
Alex, you went to Frampton-on-Severn.
The longest village green in England. You are concerned when you go there that all you see is this village green. But I actually found by the time I left the village, that is the galvanising element to this village.
I love the history. It's such fascinating stories over the centuries.
And you can't help but love Jo and her hedgehog sanctuary.
So I love the hedgehogs. I must ask the three of you to choose one of the villages to go through to the semi-finals.
Where to start, really? Where to start?
Strangford is beautiful looking, and who wouldn't want to sit by that water? Audlem is packed full of activity. Frampton-on-Severn has the longest village green in the country. That does something really positive for them.
My highest scorer actually was Histon and Impington.
Oh.
A community orchard. Where have we heard of that before? A way of bringing a community together, young and old. It's quite eco, it's very sustainable. And then you flip on the other side and you've got this graffiti. I liked the openness of that as an idea.
Well, we've got to, I'm afraid, choose one of them.
So how do we feel about letting Audlem go?
You know, the canal is absolutely abuzz. Is that completely unique? I'm not sure that it is.
I mean, the Transport Festival, I like the fact that they combine that with the canal, but does it make it unique? Does it stand out? I just don't think so. I wouldn't want to see Histon and Impington lost at this stage.
I mean, listening to what you were saying about Audlem, possibly the same is true of Frampton. It's got fantastic history, lovely village green, but what of those things is actually unique?
I think that's true. There's no one thing that I can put my hand on that I would say that is a contender.
Right, so shall we...
Yeah.
Happy?
Yes, yeah, I wouldn't fight that.
So you've got Histon and Impington and Strangford.
I just feel that what are we really looking to judge at the heart of a village is its sense of cohesion and its sense of pulling together. And what we see in the orchard and in the graffiti are two very important things that village is doing to bring itself together.
But then Strangford have their festival with their raft races, which sound absolutely crazy. And then there's this group of very creative people who seem to have gathered there because it is a very inspirational place to be.
I mean, I loved Strangford. It's undoubtedly beautiful, but I am coming round to the sort of cross-generational endeavours in Histon and Impington. And it's interesting that it is actually two villages that came together.
Well, I've scored Histon and Impington higher than Strangford, so it's kind of up to you two.
Are you going to... Now, this is really tricky for me because at first, you know, Strangford is what I would have said before Alex Started talking about Histon and Impington reclaiming difficult spaces. No, I'm happy to go with Histon and Impington.
Are you, Patrick?
I am too.
So, the pretty village in Cambridgeshire, with its heritage apples, cross-generational graffiti and uniting annual food fest, wins the day.
Well done, Histon and Impington. You're a semi-finalist.
It says so much for the community, and everybody will be tremendously excited when they find out.
Histon and Impington making the semi-finals Village of the Year. Get in there.
Next time on Village of the Year, Alex gets jiggy with some Warwickshire locals. Patrick gets snarled up in the Cheshire rush hour. Julia digs in with 3 Northern Irish Bettys.
There's as much gossip as gardening going on, is there? Right.
And in Lincolnshire, I listen to a magnificent organ.
Gosh, that was wonderful, Alan.
You can see all that tomorrow at 3. Village of the Year continues. Saturday night at 9, Meryl Streep is Emmeline Pankhurst. It is the network premiere of Suffragette here on Channel 4. Next this afternoon, a play